All right, this next news story also comes to us from IGN, written by Ryan Dinsdale. PlayStation VR 2 reportedly off to an underwhelming start. Sony's PlayStation VR 2 is reportedly off to an underwhelming start, with the virtual reality headset only expected to sell 270,000 units by the end of March. And as reported by Bloomberg, the figure comes from research firm IDC, and while 270,000 is still a lot of headsets, reports last year indicated that Sony was looking to produce 2 million PSVR 2 units to be sold by the end of March.
Yeah, at $600. Okay.
Yep, that's what they said. Vice President of Data and Analytics at IDC Francisco. That's his name. I was like, they spelled San Francisco wrong. Vice President of Data and Analytics at IDC, Francisco Geronimo, told Bloomberg that Sony would need to cut the price of the PSVR 2 to stop its launch from being a complete disaster. The headset, which already sits at $549.99, is made even pricier by the additional $499.99 cost of the required PlayStation 5. Consumers around the world are facing rising cost of living, rising interest rates, and rising layoffs. VR headsets are not top of the mind for most consumers under the current economic climate, said Geronimo. I suspect a price cut on the PSVR 2 will be needed to avoid a complete disaster of their new product. The headset launched on February 22nd with 42 games, including headlining title Horizon Call of the Mountain and a variety of virtual reality updates for critically acclaimed games like Gran Turismo 7 and Resident Evil Village. And in our 9 out of 10 review, IGN said, with top-notch visual quality and immersive tactile sense controllers, PlayStation VR 2 represents a quantum leap over its predecessor, setting a new standard for console VR gaming. I don't know about that. It doesn't say it in this article, but I was reading in another one. Part of those 42 games that came out for it, though, pretty much all of them, other than the three mentioned, because they mentioned Horizon, Gran Turismo, and Resident Evil Village. So the other 39 games are all playable on elsewhere, either PSVR 1 or Oculus Vive. Yeah, so it's like,
and even then, this is one game and 2 modes. We went over this before. It's one full game for PSVR 2 and 2 VR modes in standard games.
Yeah. So the Gran Turismo. So yeah, Resident Evil.
The other 2 are an afterthought.
Yeah, Resident Evil Village is just a VR, like it's the whole game, but in VR, but it's technically a VR mode. And then Gran Turismo 7 is the whole game, but it's right, exactly. It wasn't like it's not a VR game. It's a game that allows you to also play in VR. So it's like obviously an afterthought, which is frustrating. You spend, let's see, a lot of money, like $1,100 on equipment here on console and VR headset, and you're like, all right, let's jump into this. Wait a second, I have this on my Quest 2.
Only one game.
Wait a second. Wait. All right. Okay, Horizon. Yeah, I'll play Horizon. Oh, wait, that's it. I
beat
crazy.
It in 4 hours.
Absolutely crazy.
I spent $1,100 to beat a game in 4 hours.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But I mean, according to the expert, they gotta cut prices.
Tremendously.
And I agree. I mean, obviously I agree because he's an expert and I'm not going to disagree with an expert. But yeah, he's like, if they don't want this to be a complete disaster, like they got to do something, and they do. Like it's absurd. Like, so the original PSVR was pricey, but it wasn't more than the console itself, right? Like, I don't remember it being more than the PS4. And so it just blows my mind. It was close. Yeah, it was around the same.
Close to it.
But it wasn't more.
You don't want to hear what my cut would be like. My cut would be pretty severe. I'm thinking like $379.
Yeah. I mean, I could see going 400 because it's on par. It's the same price as the digital console, but it's still $100 less than the disc console.
Right, but if I'm trying to save this thing and move units with one piece of software, no.
Oh yeah, no. At this point, with like they are 100%. This is like
nuclear damage control. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to get these things out of the warehouse. So you know what? For the next
For the next 48 hours, get your PSVR 2 for $300.
But I'm saying for the foreseeable future, when I say slash, I mean like slash it down. Because the same thing happened with the 3DS. It started out, it was $250 and nobody was buying it. It wasn't moving units. And then they slashed it super. It was like 180, I think, 170 after that. And then what happened? It started flying out the door.
Yeah.
So they have to do something that drastic. And I think if it's me, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing $379, getting out the door, because that's less than the price of the console. And I think a lot more people, especially these days, economically, can stand to take that kind of a hit.
Yeah,
because $550 is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absurd. Like especially. Like, I mean, it'd be one thing, like, if I bought the disc console, I'd be like, oh, it's just $50 more than another PS5. Like, I mean, it still suck. But I'd be like, I feel like I could, in my twisted brain could justify it more. But since I bought the digital PS5, it's like, that's $150 more than the console. Like, why would I do that? Like, that doesn't make sense. I cannot do the mental gymnastics to justify that one. That's for sure.
The only thing is, it's a niche product, right? Like, that's the part where I can't justify it, because I'm going to pay $550 and it does one thing. It plays VR games.
Right.
I can do infinitely more things with the base unit than with frankly, what is the accessory.
And at this point, too, I have a Quest 2, which plays all the games. So if I want to play any of those games,
without wires, I can do that. Maybe the fidelity is less, but...
Or even with wires, I plug it into my computer and I can play it turns into games on my Steam. Yeah, it turns into a Rift. So I'm like, wow, all right. So and that cost me $300 for that. Right. And it does both. I have the option to go completely wireless. I could run around in my backyard right now playing Beat Saber, or plug in, and I got a 20-foot cable that I can run around in my little 8x10 office. So they at this point, they're bleeding. Like, it's a mortal wound. And if they don't,
1/10 of your forecast,
and if they don't
doing bad,
if they don't cauterize this thing soon, like, they're done. Like, that's it. It's sad. It's sad,
almost
really.
As if they should have seen that VR was a niche market and maybe saw what the trend is right now with hardware, which is portables. Sony portable. It's almost like they made a piece of hardware with portable in the name before that did very well.
Yeah, I think they did a long time ago. It's been a while, but there was something there.
Can't think of it.
Selkie says self-inflicted VR gunshot wound. Yes, exactly. Which, I mean, we all tried it, right? We all tried it. You jump in the Resident Evil and you're like, all right, does this work?
No, I was too terrified looking around. Dude, I was the last thing I thought about.
Just freaking out. Yeah, I don't know. It's sad. This blows my mind, because you're right. They treated this, not only do they not read the room, but then they treated it like, I don't know what information they're going off of, because it's almost like, where did they... Because they could have made an affordable VR system, but they didn't. They're like, we're going to make a boutique VR system because that's what people want. And we're like, no, we just want either,
I want my PS5 to work good. Can we do that? Can we make that happen? Which they did. Granted, I will give them that. It works very well. PS5 is great. PS5 is fantastic. But they had to start development on this, I'd say at least 2017. Which means
at least 5 or 6 years
and doing well, right?
At least 5 or 6 years. Yeah.
Right. They're not stupid, right? So they look at their competitors.
Well.
And they saw, okay, you know what I mean? Like, as a cohesive unit, they're not stupid. So they saw that the Switch was out and they saw that it was selling like gangbusters, and they said, no, we're gonna do VR instead. Really?
Yeah. And again, and the point that I was trying to get at is like, it's not even like an affordable VR headset. It's like, we're going to go boutique. It's bespoke. We're going to pay all this crazy money. And it's like, give us something cheap that works, that looks good. Like, that's what I want. I want junk food VR. That's what I want.
I don't even think in the grand scheme of things that PSVR 1, like, was successful enough to warrant doing another one. I feel like it was a fun experiment.
Yeah.
And like, then that was it.
You hit the
They
nail
only
on
sold,
the
what, 1 million units?
Yeah, nah, I'd have to look it up. Not that many, but yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there. Like PSVR 1 wasn't even that successful. But they're like, we're gonna make a sequel to it. Don't worry, guys. But then, like you mentioned, like the PSP back in the day,
sitting right there.
Like, that was extremely successful, and they're like
85 million units.
We're like, no more. We're full.
Which one would you rather have? The potential to sell multiple millions of units? Because look, even Vita's is a success compared to PSVR 2 right now, right? Vita at least sold 13 million.
Okay,
PSVR 2 is not even barely cracking a quarter of one.
So PSVR, the first one, came out in October of 2016. And as of January, the last number that Statista has, I'm not doing super deep research, but Statista.com, as of January 2020, they sold 5 million units.
Okay,
so
now look up how much the Oculus family has sold.
Nothing to shake a stick at, but still. I mean, a lot more than that. Let me see. Let me just look up even like the Quest 2. Quest 2 sales specifically has sold nearly 20 million units.
And you want to keep going?
Crazy.
Okay.
What about like the Rift? Let me like look at.
Same deal.
Do they even make the Rift anymore? What's the new one?
Rift S.
The Rift in 2021 sold 6.1 million units, which is still destroys still 1.1 million more than PSVR. And that's what's crazy is they got that number and people still have to buy like a $1,500 computer to go with it
on top of that to run it.
So and that is one thing I do want to touch on, that because I've had people like rebut us and be like, well, the reason like that's not an absurd price. Like people are used to like spending $1,500 on a computer and then buying like a $500 headset, like the Rift, or a $400 headset, whatever, like the Rift or whatever back in the day. And I'm like, right.
Yes. The Rift is also much higher fidelity than even PSVR 2 is right now. The Vive and the Rift, do you understand how much more complex those headsets are? You know, for the Vive, you have to set up cameras around you so that it can capture you in the environment.
Yeah. And even like down to like the power of the PC. It's like we're talking on completely different levels. And I think that's the other
spectrums.
That's the other issue too, is like and maybe that's what really the biggest mistake on Sony is they tried to make a competitor to PC VR headsets, and not only is that like an incredible undertaking, but it's not what console players wanted. Console players are very much happy with like, if just give me like something
that just made their own
looks
Quest
halfway
2
decent, you know,
that somehow has like Wi-Fi Direct or Bluetooth Direct to the PS5. That's what they should have done.
Yeah.
And then make it like a Quest 2.5, you would have been just fine. You would have been just fine.
Yeah. It's like if I wanted that incredible fidelity,
I would get a Vive. I would get a Rift. I would get an Oculus
Exactly.
Quest.
I would buy a decked out computer and I would buy a Vive or a Rift. If I'm buying a VR headset for a console, it's because I just want like this easy, simple console setup. And as long as you were better than the PSVR 1, I would have been happy. I would have been happy. Like, and they are better, but that's the thing. They tried to like shoot the moon with this one. I'm like, oh, take it easy, boys. Like we need to be able to afford.
At what cost?
We got to afford this thing. We got to be able to buy this thing from you. So, yeah, I just feel like there are two different markets happening here. Like there's a console VR market and a PC VR market. And unfortunately, Sony's like, we're going to fight against the PC VR market. It's like, they're not your competitors. That's one thing with like, again, I'm going to reference my job again, but like we do consultations with some of our clients, and like so many of our clients are like, oh, we want to compete against X, Y, or Z company. And we're like, why? Like realistically, like they're not they are so beyond you. They are not your competitor. These are your competitors. And if you can beat these people down here that are at your level, you're going to kill it. You should not be trying to beat like this nationwide multi-billion-dollar company or whatever. It's like, You're a local XYZ company. Stick with this area. And if you can kill it locally, you're gonna do great. Like, that's all that matters. And that's what Sony was trying to do. Like, we're gonna go for the nationwide thing. It's like, let's stay local here. Let's stay in, don't kill yourself.
Yeah. They have to do a severe price cut at this point. And they also need to come out with way more software. Like, by the end of this year, there needs to be at least 3 more Sony-backed VR built from the ground up experiences coming out. And I expect to see more at State of Play for E3 or whatever it is.
If the Summer Game Fest, State of Play, they don't have any new games, VR2 it's dead in the water. It's done. That's it. Like, there's going to be a price cut, and it's because they're just continuing it. Like, everyone's going to have it on sale for $150.
That's going to be such a short run. Is that the shortest Sony product?
If that was to happen, yes, I think so. But I hope that does not happen. But if that were to happen, I think that would beat the record.
Man,
I don't know. We'll see.
I'd
be curious. So
dude.
Yeah, I haven't done a ton of research. So, because off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember the release window for games for the original PSVR. Because I feel like they
didn't come at a very fast clip either.
They kind of had a stutter start at the beginning of the PSVR launch as well, but I don't think it was this bad. So again, I can't talk confidently about that. I have to do some research. Maybe we can talk about it down the road. Then I'm sure they'll be on the news again soon. We've talked about them like 3 times in the last 6 months. We'll just I'll have to look into that and be like, okay, just to be able to actually compare how was PSVR 1 launch versus what 2s have been doing so far, because
I could tell.
Honestly, I think they're pretty similar. Probably, which again is surprising that they tried a second time, because so far it seems to be going about as good as the first time around. But I don't know.
Yeah, nothing that they had was like stuff that wasn't already on another platform. Same deal. For PSVR 1, I don't think.
Other than like Resident Evil 7 in VR was terrifying.
Look, like Job Simulator was on PC. Keep Talking Nobody Explodes was on PC.
Right. Yeah.
Thumper was probably on PC. So they're in the same boat again.
Same boat, but the pricing structure was different. So again, At that point, like it was like, oh, okay, I can spend $300 on a Vive or $300 on the PSVR. I already have a PlayStation. I don't have a $1,500 computer that can run VR, so it made sense. So I was fine with that. I was fine with the game selection because the VR I didn't have the other one, and this was cheap enough as an entry point. But again, we're talking in circles, but that's the mistake they've made this time. Is like,
here we go. Sony backed or Sony published PSVR games. PSVR 1.
Until Dawn, that rail shooter thing, right?
1.
Okay.
Astrobot was 2. Astrobot was great.
Oh, yeah.
Firewall, 0 Hour, that was the one that you had to buy the gun for, was mid.
Right.
PSVR Worlds was a tech demo. Let's see here.
Oh yeah, that was not a game. That was not a game at all.
Farpoint, same deal. You had to buy the gun attachment. You had to buy the thing for it. Yep. Moss was on other platforms. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, no, Moss initially was a PlayStation exclusive. It wasn't until years later that came to everything else. Yes. Moss was a PlayStation exclusive initially. It came to Steam and everything. Like it was like 2 or 3 years later, I think.
So for the good old price of about $349 to $399, you got 2 good games, a tech demo, and a couple of gun games from Sony.
Yeah. But then like you said,
the rest of the weight.
Yeah, like you said though, a lot of third-party games, which at that price point made sense though, because it's like, oh, this is an entry-level VR. I already have the PS4. I've had it for a bunch of years, and I don't have a computer that can run it. Like that makes sense. But yeah, this seems crazy to pay $600 for a bunch of third-party stuff.
I guess. I don't know.
Like if the third-party stuff is good and I don't have the other thing, then this makes sense. But the fact that it's like, okay, yeah, again, like the price point is just. That makes a big difference. Like that $200 swing, $300 swing, that makes a big difference there.
Huge.
So like if If PSVR 2 was at that $350 price point, I'd be like, okay, yeah, you know what? If I didn't have a Quest 2, I'd be in.
I would, right? But I do.
But I do have it, and it doesn't make sense.
Hopefully it turns around. You never want to see a product fail, of course.
Yeah.
But we got to be realistic here. So hopefully, here's hoping that there's some things at State of Play that are gonna blow people's socks off.
Oh, definitely. I do just want to say, I'm just gonna get out ahead of this right now. The last time we've gotten negative comments on our videos, extremely negative comments, was when we talked about PSVR 2.
Bring it
so
on.
I just want to say to you, hey, you know what?
Scared?
You know what I want to say to you who's about to like angry rant in the chats right now in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. We appreciate the view. And if you wouldn't mind giving us a thumbs up, that would be fantastic. So subscribe to the channel. So next time that we talk about PSVR 2.
And if you're that same cat who came on and said that PSVR was going to do numbers and it was just so fantastical, where are you at now?
Yeah.
270,000 out of a 2 million projection. Where you at? You're awful quiet.
Not doing so hot. But yeah, no, I appreciate the view and give us thumbs up and subscribe. So next time we talk about PSVR 2, you can talk trash again in the comments. Appreciate it. Gem and Heels is in the chat. It says, sup nerds, what's up, Gemin? And then Selkie says, nerds can't keep up with SGB and their base takes on VR2 being $1 billion. Truth. Facts. All right. Thank you so much for watching that clip from our podcast. Remember, if you want to watch the whole episode, the full episode, link will be in the description below. You can click on that and check it out. We got listener questions. We got more news segments. We got what you playing. We got a lot of fun things. So yeah, more than just the news. There's a lot more to the show that you should go check out. So remember, click that link in the description. Check out that full episode.